Hello, everyone. My name is Brad Brummel. I'm here with two amazing coordinators from Missouri. I'm going to let them introduce themselves. Sally, you want to go first?
Sure. I'm Sally Schulte. I'm with the Wentzville School District.
And I am Patrick Fine from the Rockwood School District.
And I'm from Springfield Public Schools, and we are here to provide some professional learning around the MOready at-home fitness teacher resource that has been released here in October. We just wanted to provide a short webinar for those of you that wanted to learn a little bit more about it, learn why it was created, how it was created, dive a little deeper to hopefully provide a little bit more success when you're using this resource. So Sally, can you talk a little bit about why this resource was created?
Sure. So DESE asked upon us to create something because we know that people are in lots of different situations around the state. We have some districts in hybrid, we have some that are fully virtual, and then we also have some that are face-to-face. So as things change and as districts' situations change, we wanted to make sure that fitness testing had a lot of options and that districts could utilize pretty much anything to get fitness testing done. So we had a lot of conversations as a group and with many other individuals around the state to create this resource to help teachers out.
Awesome. So as of right now, DESE is still asking PE teachers in Missouri to report scores for 5th, 7th, and 9th grade students, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Pat, anything you'd like to add to that, or anything that you've passed along to your teachers around fitness testing for this year?
And he's frozen. So I'll take over. Really, we know that fitness testing is a great tool for helping students learn how to self-assess where they are, where their fitness is, and then also to help students understand setting goals. So we as PE teachers, that's really one of the main things. We want to help our kids understand where they are and how to get to where they want to be. And fitness testing is a great way to do that.
Very well said, Sally. And I think another thing that I've tried to communicate to teachers in Springfield is that it's okay that fitness testing is not a priority as we start our year off, or if we get a brand new class. I know a lot of times in a traditional year, we may start the semester off with some pre-testing. But with our students maybe being inactive for a long time, that might not be the best choice for this year. And so we know that even if you are in person with your students, these at-home testing options could be a great resource for you to give your students more choices of how they pre-assess themselves and as a tool to set goals. So Sally, let's talk next about how this resource was created. Kind of walk us through a little bit of how this began, who we worked with, and anything else that you'd be willing to share about how.
Sure. And Brad, you'll have to pop in too. So when we started this, we looked at the traditional ways that we normally assess, and DESE, our state, uses FitnessGram. So we really scoured through the different tests that we use through FitnessGram, and we were trying to look at modifications, ways that we could change this for kids who are at home or who are virtual. So we started there, and then we also looked at the Presidential Youth Fitness Program, who has an at-home resource. And we really were trying to make sure we stayed equitable and we could include everyone in this process. So we were really trying to think through the pieces for what kids had available, what homes might have, what homes might not have. So the resource really reflects those different pieces for all of our students around the state.
Yeah. And I know that through the process of creating this resource, I learned a lot just with collaborating with teachers across the state, you and Pat, Sean Nevels from SHAPE. I know that me, you, and Pat, we all were intentional about reaching out to university professors to get their input and to see if they had any resources for us to include. We included DESE, and we certainly leaned heavily on those Cooper FitnessGram and PYFP resources. So next, I think that it would be important just to share a little bit about our goal, like the goal of the resource. We wanted this resource to just be credible and standards-based. So we've done a thorough job of, vetting each resource, vetting each link, Like Sally mentioned, equity and inclusion was a big part of this resource. We wanted every student to have an option, no matter what their situation is, no matter whether they're in an apartment, a house, with a guardian, without a guardian, no matter their situation at home, that there would be an option that would help them not only assess their fitness and their health, but also where they could be successful in executing that test. We wanted the resource to be ready to use. We wanted you to be able to take something and plug it into your learning management system. We wanted it to be easy to use for you and efficient, because we know if a resource takes a lot of time away from your job, then it's not going to get used and it's not going to be helpful. So, and then the last thing is we wanted to provide a menu of options, because we know one option may be great for Sally and her district, but it may not work great for Springfield. And so that's why you'll see options for each fitness component. And we're going to show you what the resource looks like here in just a second. But for each component, there will be options for different fitness tests and you even at one site may be able to provide different options for your students as well. Sally, anything else you'd add on the goals?
Yeah, no, you said it all really well. This is really just a one-stop shop for our teachers across the state. We were trying to make it very easy to navigate, easy to use. And even if you are in person, these pieces can still be used, in your classrooms. That's kind of the beauty of this project as well, that any PE teacher can use this.
And it goes well past just how to execute the test. Resources involved with what you could use in a virtual format to help students learn more about aerobic capacity or cardiovascular endurance to make that test more meaningful, not just how to take the mile test at home or how to read the results, but to learn more about what that actually means to make that time more meaningful for the students. And I think that you'll find, because it definitely was for me, as I went through these resources, I just became more knowledgeable and I became more aware of why we do these fitness tests, and just I think it made me a better educator when it comes to providing resources for fitness testing overall. So we're going to jump right into it. I'm going to share my screen so that you can see this resource. And obviously, if you we'll give you access to this resource along with this professional learning as well. But this is a free resource. It's just a Google sheet. So it's all organized in 2 tabs. We have one tab with each fitness test organized by component. And then there's a tab for guidance resources that would go along with it to help you be successful. And we'll dive into those here in just a little bit. But first, I just wanted to point out kind of the main organization. You'll see that it's all aligned to Shape Standard 3. And each component is color coded. And so you'll see aerobic capacity here in the red. And we always wanted to provide where this resource came from. So you'll be able to see whether it's a FitnessGram resource or a PYFP, or if it's an external resource. A quick description, because sometimes if you see an idea and you see that quick description, you may already know how to, you may be able to take it and run, and you don't need anything else. And so that's to help with efficiency. And then we have how-to video tutorials for each test. And these can be used within a learning management system. These can be provided for students. These can be just to help you as an educator learn how to administer the test accurately. And then we have resources to help you and your students. So it may be a projector visual. It may be an audio for the pacer. It may be a picture, an infographic that you can include in your virtual assignment. And then lastly is a Google Doc template for students to use as a submission. And the great thing about these is they come with directions, links to resources, and the ability for students to turn something in. Okay. And we'll jump into one of these here in a little bit. So I'm going to let Sally kind of go through the aerobic capacity options first, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, so we, like I said before, we try to really go through these tests and think of what could be used anywhere and in any situation. So we came up with 3, and the 3 that we landed on were the pacer test, which most of us are familiar with, the 1 mile walk run, and then we also have a jump roping test in there too for aerobic capacity. And yep.
So-
And then oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, so these how-to videos is not necessarily going to be how you do the pacer at school. This is a video that break it down and to give students directions of how they can perform the pacer test at home.
Mhm. Yes, and those infographics are really helpful too. And all of our resources are connected. So you're not going to see one infographic from somewhere and then another infographic from somewhere else. Everything is all connected straight through to what they're submitting as well.
And just to be transparent with everyone, the aerobic capacity component was the component that gave us the most difficulties and challenge. This is the one that we really spent a lot of our time on trying to figure out, because it's not that we couldn't figure out how to do the fitnessgram or the fitnessgram pacer at home. It was, will students be able to do that? Can a fifth grader do that? And can a fifth grader do it safely? And can a fifth grader do it safely and successfully? And so that was what we went back and forth on. We found some great resources that you can use as an option for that, but we know that not all fifth graders are going to be able to do that. And so that's why you see multiple options. And the 1 mile run and walk is a great option if a student has an app on their phone that they can use to track a mile, or if they have a smartwatch or a Fitbit or an Apple Watch. But if they don't have the ability to know what a mile is, or if they don't live in an area where they can safely run a mile outside or have a treadmill inside, then that's not a great option. And so that was why we were really excited about the jump rope option from PYFP at home, to where just about anybody can do that. And the how-to video does a great job of demonstrating that. They can do it with the jump rope or without. And so we feel like the aerobic capacity is probably the most important test to consider providing multiple options for your students. And we would highly suggest you looking into all three of those options, because we think that when students are at home, we need to be able to provide those options to help them be successful. So next, Dr. Pat Fine is back. Would you like to discuss a little bit about the upper body muscular strength and endurance options, Pat?
I would. There is two different options. There's the fitnessgram option for the upper body, which is the push-ups, and the fitnessgram, they have to do that with the cadence. And there's the audio part of that that's included in this document. And the Presidential Youth Fitness Program, their push-up version is just a continuous push-up over a certain amount of time. So both of those options are there. If you don't feel like the student would have the capability to be able to get the audio version, to be able to have the up down for the fitnessgram, then probably the presidential version would probably be a better option for you.
Brad, you're on mute.
Thank you, Sally. So some of the resources that would go along with that is a 1-minute timer in your LMS that you could include. So if you're asking students to do the 1-minute test, you could include this 1-minute timer in your assignment. So that way students would have an easy way to keep track of that 1 minute. And then here's an example of those Google Docs submissions that we were talking about. And I'll open one up so that you can get a look at what that looks like. You can see that it'll have directions. It's got an image there for the proper technique. It'll have video resources linked within it, and then an opportunity for students to put in their score and then as well their goal. And so then they could easily submit that to whatever LMS that you're operating on. Sally, would you like to talk a little bit more about the abdominal muscular strength and endurance options?
Yeah, absolutely. So it is very similar to the upper body as far as how the tests are set up. You have the curl up with fitnessgram, which has the cadence, and we have the how-to videos in there. And then there's also the 1-minute curl up test, which is from PYFP, and there's the 1-minute timer that we have in there as well. So similar setups. The resources are all there for you, and it's pretty much, it's all right there.
Yeah. And I will say that if you are needing for your district expectations, video submissions of either one of these tests, it is possible, I know on Canvas specifically, to play the FitnessGram audio at the same time as recording through your Chromebook and having students record themselves performing that cadence test, or the 1 minute test. And so they can have that audio going on the background of their Chromebook while recording themselves doing the test, and then submitting that video to their instructor on Canvas. I know that's an option. And if you would like access to those created assignments on Canvas, feel free to reach out to me via email and I can help you get access to those on Canvas. So last but not least, Pat, you want to talk to us about what we've provided for flexibility?
For the flexibility test, since I know a lot of you, if you're doing the FitnessGram testing, there is a box test. And so the students probably wouldn't have access to that at home. So what they have, and we have included in here, is a how-to video of how they can do it at home. And all they would need is a ruler and a piece of tape to be able to take that ruler down, even with with the heel of their feet. And what's nice about it is our own Sally Schulte is there giving us a video on how to do that. And then there is a printed ruler that's available in the resources, and information and directions on how they can perform it. But the video portion of it, if you watch that and the students watch that, they can easily perform that at home.
Awesome. So if I'm a teacher providing virtual instruction for my 5th, 7th, or 9th grade students, then I need to be assessing these options, deciding which options I'm going to provide for my students, and then deciding how are my students going to provide me the scores for each test. And that's where these submission examples could come into play, but there's also several ways that you can get those students to provide evidence of their learning as well as their scores. So that is the options that we've provided. The next tab over is the guidance resources. And then these are just different tools that can help you be more successful. The first category of resources is healthy fitness zone and reporting. So if you're familiar with reporting, you're going to have to report for those 5th, 7th, and 9th graders, whether they were in the healthy fitness zone, whether they did not, which was marked as tested, or if they were not, if they were unable to test for various reasons, then you're going to, mark not tested. And so these are just 2 resources that we would highly recommend using to figure out if their scores are in the healthy fitness zone. And this is provided by Cooper and FitnessGram. And this has the number of laps for the pacer, 20 and 15 meter, and then also the timed zones for the 1 mile run. The next resource that we would call is if you're providing any options for those at-home PYFP modifications. These are going to be the scores that would be considered a healthy fitness zone for the at-home jump rope test or the 1 minute push-up test. Those tests that you're not going to find in the FitnessGram document. So use this as a resource as well when it comes time to report your scores. Again, these at-home options are not to replace the FitnessGram test that we've traditionally done. This is just a modification to help our students while their time is at home.
Brad, that's
ahead,
one thing that we talked about when we were putting this together, is our big concern that a year from now that teachers would go back to this document and think, oh, this must be our new fitness testing for the state of Missouri. And we had many discussions about that this is really just an option for you because of what we're going through right now and the virtual learning options that school districts are providing for their students. And this is just to give them choices and options so they can still submit fitness scores to
their district and to their state. And also, I'm sure what Patrick was going to say is that we don't know what the future is going to hold. So I'm sure there might be some districts that continue on with virtual learning in the next school year. And these would continue to be options for them, but to be very mindful about when and what you're doing.
This last resource in this category, I think, is a great resource that comes from Megan Baker at Kansas City, part of Spaker Spot. And this is a Google sheet that can be individual to a student to where they can track their own scores. And it actually creates a graph down here for them. And the healthy zones are right here next to it. And I think this would be very helpful in assisting students to create goals and just to help with that learning process as a whole. And so definitely check that out. And thanks to Megan for sharing that. The next category is best practices. Sally, do you want to talk about any of these best practice resources?
Yeah, so it's really small on my screen, so I'm trying to read it.
That's okay.
Basically, go ahead. Yeah, Brad, you go ahead.
So the first couple are document or resources that have been around for a long time, and it's just to help with appropriate and inappropriate practices using fitness testing. One of them is a parent letter to help with communication that, hey, we're going to be fitness testing at home this year. Here are some things that you can do to help set your child up for success. Sally, anything you want to add about maybe the Brockport resources?
Yeah, so we also included the Brockport resources for our students who are in the realm of SPED or might have, need some major modifications for this testing. So we have two of those there. We have the actual Brockport breakdown of how to give the test. And then there is, I believe it's the reporting sheet as well that we have linked in there too.
Yeah. So the last category is instructional resources. And this is, I think, mostly used, like we talked about earlier, to help further the learning so that it's not just a test, it's a part of the learning. And so these are a lot of resources that could be used either prior or during or after taking the test to try to help the students learn more about health-related fitness, the 5 components of fitness. And Sally's provided some videos in here on proper ways to warm up and cool down. Those are things that we would organize and conduct with our in-person classes, but we can't guarantee that a student's going to properly warm up before doing an at-home mile test. And so that's something that we would want to provide for those students prior to jumping right into that 1 mile test. And so just things to consider. Pat, anything else that you would add on this guidance resources tab?
I don't know if I wanted to add anything there, but I did want to highlight up at the top of that sheet, the document that we just included today, which some people that.
So this is the resource that Pat was wanting to highlight, and it
might have accessed this form a couple days ago, wouldn't have access. Yeah, the mile times on it, because FitnessGram kind of moved away from putting mile times on their standard sheet, and they went to recording VO2 max. So because of the at-home test and the student being able to access to VO2 max, they wouldn't at home. So we wanted to be able to include the standards for the mile. So this was not included the other day and has just been added within the last 10 or 15 minutes.
Thank you, Pat. So I guess to close today's learning in this webinar, I guess just know that the 3 of us, we put this together to help you because we all know that you have a very challenging job and a very important job. And we hope that this resource would help your job be easier, help it be more impactful. And so if there's any questions around this resource, feel free to reach out to any of us. And then Sally, did you want to highlight the MOShape convention and a session coming up?
Yeah, absolutely. So Brad, Patrick, and I have been very blessed to work together a lot, actually, over this pandemic period of time. And we have another resource, the MOready activity resource that we put together over the summer. And then we are going to have a session in the MOShape convention, which is the same weekend, November 13th through the 15th. And more information to come on that. It will be virtual. But we are going to put together a session that goes through our 2 resources. And then there are some also really impactful resources out there that we want to make sure that you're aware of. And we want to highlight those as well in our session. So hopefully you guys can join on to that and learn with us. Brad, you're muted.
Dr. Fine, any words of wisdom to end us with?
No, but I did want to highlight that in that session, one thing that we're going to talk about is just our collaboration process that we go through, and just the learning that we've been able to gain from each other, and just what we do, the beginning parts of it, how we kind of start with an idea, and by the time we get to the end of it, sometimes it's completely different than how we started out because of the input that each one of us brings. So we'll be talking a little bit about that process too, hoping that other teachers will partner up with other people in their areas to be able to do the same type of thing that we've been able to do.
And also to be able to use this as advocating tools. Because I know we've been able to really use this as advocating tools for ourselves and for our districts and for what we're doing. So that's true. Exactly, Patrick. Hit it right on the head.
Absolutely. And we hope this is not the last MOready resource. And so we don't know what the next MOready resource may be, but would not be surprised if there are future MOready resources. We thank you for watching, and have a great day.